Fame creates a strange illusion. The more visible someone becomes, the easier it is to believe they are fully understood. Over time, a person becomes less human and more symbolic. Amelia Earhart became one of the most recognizable women in the world during the early 20th century. To the public, she represented courage, freedom, and modern possibility. But behind the headlines was someone navigating pressure, exhaustion, financial uncertainty, and the struggle to control her own identity while the world transformed her into an icon. This episode is not simply about how Earhart disappeared. It is about the lesser-known life she was trying to hold together long before she vanished at all. Amelia Earhart grew up in Kansas during a period when girls were expected to behave predictably, quietly, and domestically. She did not. As a child, she climbed trees, collected newspaper clippings about successful women in male-dominated careers, and resisted traditional expectations. Family members often described her as restless, not rebellious for attention, but uncomfortable with limitations that seemed arbitrary. This mattered later. Earhart's aviation career did not emerge suddenly from adventure or fame. It grew from a lifelong refusal to accept roles assigned to her by convention. Flying simply became the clearest expression of that refusal. One lesser-known part of Earhart's life is how long aviation was absent from it. Before becoming a pilot, she worked as a nurse's aide during the aftermath of World War I, caring for wounded soldiers in Toronto hospitals. There she encountered pilots recovering from combat injuries, not glamorous heroes. Damaged young men carrying physical and psychological scars from the sky. Aviation first entered her life through vulnerability rather than spectacle. This experience also exposed her to another reality rarely emphasized in stories about Earhart. She was deeply observant of suffering. Her ambition existed alongside empathy, not separate from it. In 1928, Earhart became internationally famous after crossing the Atlantic aboard the Fokker F-7 Friendship. But there was an uncomfortable detail hidden beneath the publicity. She had not piloted the aircraft. Earhart later admitted she felt more like a sack of potatoes during the flight. Others controlled the plane, while reporters transformed her into a global celebrity. This frustrated her deeply. She understood that the public often preferred symbols over truth. A marketable story mattered more than technical accuracy. Rather than reject the attention entirely, Earhart made a calculated decision. If the world insisted on making her famous, she would use that fame to create real opportunities for herself and for other women. Many people remember Amelia Earhart as an aviator. Far fewer recognize how strategic she was. She helped design practical flight clothing for women. She wrote articles and books. She lectured constantly. She became associate editor of a magazine focused on aviation. She worked to make flying appear accessible rather than elite. Earhart understood media unusually well for her era. She recognized that visibility could be leveraged into influence. This was not vanity. It was infrastructure building. She wanted women to see independence as achievable, not abstract. Earhart's marriage to George P. Putnam was unconventional for its time. Before marrying him, She wrote a letter explaining she did not want to enter a relationship defined by control or obligation. She resisted traditional expectations surrounding marriage and domesticity. Even at the height of her fame, Earhart guarded her independence fiercely. This often gets overshadowed by stories of aviation records, but it reveals something central about her worldview. She was not only challenging physical boundaries, she was challenging social ones. Publicly, Earhart appeared calm, adventurous, and endlessly confident. Privately, she was often exhausted. Constant travel, sponsorship obligations, interviews, writing deadlines, and public appearances consumed enormous amounts of energy. Fame created financial opportunities, but it also trapped her inside a relentless cycle of performance. One lesser-known reality about Earhart is how difficult it became for her to separate herself from the character the public expected her to play. The symbol of fearless independence had very little room to appear uncertain, tired, or afraid. By the 1930s, aviation records had become increasingly dangerous. Flights grew longer. Navigation remained unreliable. Mechanical failure could become fatal within minutes. Every achievement raised public expectations for another, even riskier accomplishment. Earhart understood this, but she also recognized that momentum mattered. Public attention fades quickly, especially for women whose accomplishments are treated as temporary novelties rather than permanent achievements. Continuing to fly was not only personal ambition, it was maintenance, preserving relevance in a culture eager to move on. In 1937, Amelia Earhart attempted to circumnavigate the globe with navigator Fred Noonan aboard a Lockheed Model 10 Electra. The disappearance over the Pacific became one of history's most enduring mysteries. But the mystery itself has often overshadowed the emotional reality surrounding the flight. Earhart was not recklessly chasing danger for romance or spectacle. She was operating inside immense pressure, public, professional, financial, and symbolic. The world expected her to keep proving something, again and again. After her disappearance, Amelia Earhart transformed almost completely into mythology. Conspiracy theories multiplied. Endless searches continued. Speculation overwhelmed the quieter truths of her life. But perhaps the most revealing part of Earhart's story is not how she disappeared. It is how carefully she fought to remain fully human before she vanished. She wanted freedom without surrendering identity, visibility without losing autonomy, achievement without becoming trapped inside performance. That tension still feels modern, because even now, society often turns remarkable people into symbols first, and only later wonders who they actually were underneath. Some stories fade, others wait to be heard,